So where we are in terms of things, second quiz deadline is Wednesday night. Help sessions will meet this Wednesday and Thursday. And the times and locations are listed down here. And they will be dedicated to homework 1, which is due a week from today. And then exam 1 is a week from Wednesday. So sometime, maybe Friday, I'll tell you how to interpret the keys to the previous exams. So it's not necessarily straightforward, and I'll sort of warn you that the format of the exams last year was different than in previous years. So you can figure, I mean, it's not that complicated, but it could be confusing. So that's what I'll explain on, I think, Friday. Today we're going to talk about models and D.W.I. testing. And I think we'll start with this little intro.
Oh, hell.
How you doing?
Well, I'm great. I'm doing okay. How are you?
Okay. I'm not so good because you were weaving all over the road there.
Well, can
Sir?
we get one thing straight? I have not been drinking.
Okay.
And
right hand to the nose.
yes.
With the left hand.
All right.
And back out. I need you to recite the alphabet from Z to A backwards as fast as you can.
From
Can you
Z
do that
to A?
for me? Yeah.
Sure.
Backwards.
Z, Y, X, W, V, U, T, S, R, Q, P, O, N, M, L, K, J, I, H, G, F, E, D, C, B, A.
All right. Remarkable. I've actually never seen anybody do that.
Oh, my bladder.
I'm not worried about your bladder right now.
Sure.
Okay.
10.
All right. All right. Well, you got pretty good balance there.
Thank you.
I want you to step, bump, step, bump, bump, step, bump, step, bump, bump. 5, 6, 7, 8. Step, bump, step, bump, bump, step, bump, step, bump, bump. Pas de beret, kickball change, step, clap.
Okay.
5, 6, 7, 8.
Right. You know what would be good is if you hit kicked and then you kind of did that and then a barrel turn and then ha, you know?
That was good.
That would be.
That was really good. You a dancer?
No, not I'm just drunk.
That was not real, in case you couldn't figure that out. But it does kind of set the stage for what we want to talk about today. And actually, I want some volunteers. This is some mouthwash, opened last hour. They weren't supposed to open both. And I want a couple people from Edges here volunteer to go out and use it. There's a cup to pour it in before you use it. And then a little while later, we're going to use this device. So anywhere from 2 to 4 people. Okay, you got to be near the edge. You're too far away. Unless you want to sit down there, you're close enough. Okay, 3 of you can, or 4 of you if you want. Grab a cup and I guess any of those bottles of stuff. And I think last hour they were having a contest to see who could spit the furthest off. So you're going to go out there. We don't want to watch this. Ooh. You can. Well, you're not supposed to drink it. And it goes over that way. Don't spit on anyone. Just use it. So what's in there that's going to trigger a breathalyzer? alcohol. So, and so I guess I can put this up because I'm not really going to ask anyone about it. But in terms of context here, for people in your age group, which is 18 to 24-year-olds, there's about 8,000 deaths annually on highways. You can throw the cups there. Okay, so it is roughly 5 after. We got to wait a few minutes before we do this. So these are just some statistics to motivate things, and the old estimate is that half of them are alcohol related. And for college students, i.e. you guys, this means about 15 deaths per 100,000, or for a population the size of UT, you're looking at anywhere from 5 to 10 deaths a year. So that's actually pretty sobering, right? Yep.
But like, UT is less of a commuting school than say like A&M, so wouldn't it be a right higher number there and a lower number here?
There's going to be all kinds of variation, right? This is an average. An average is a model. It's got all kinds of flaws in it. Travis County is a hot spot for alcohol-related deaths, and and it's not just college students. Okay, so that's just kind of motivation, and I said it was 5 after or so when you came in. So the standard approach in countries is deterrence. Which means if you're caught driving intoxicated, then we'll penalize you. And the levels of deterrence have gone up over the years quite a bit. So, you know, there was someone in my department when I first got here who had been, you know, nailed 3 times or so for this, and I don't know that he suffered any ill consequences legally. But things have gotten a lot more serious. Penalties have gone up. So what is it? The second one now can be considered a felony. Second DWI can be considered a felony if you're caught DWI and there's someone under 13 or under in the car. It's an automatic felony, etc. So they've gotten far more serious about this. So if our approach is going to be that, then we need a way, or need ways to assess whether someone, and that slash means whether someone is impaired so we can actually start this little game. Okay, whoever, you went out there? So grab a straw out of there. I'm going to cut it down so the air path isn't so high. So the way this is going to work for those of you that are also trying this, you push the button and you have a 20-second countdown while the unit's warming up, then it'll beep. Then you blow in there for whatever it is, says 5 seconds. It feels like about 50 when you're trying to do it. It'll beep again, and then you wait for the reading. Okay, now you blow. Wait, oh, 0. No, it's, what does it read now? That is not as point, oh, that's only 0.06. God, what a wuss at mouthwash. Okay, Of course, 0.06 isn't something you'd want to be caught with either. Okay, 20-second countdown. Who else? Oh. I'll give you the straw now. It takes a minute to come up with the reading. 0.04. Boy, you can't hold a candle the last hour. I think we had a 0.37 and a, yeah. And we're only 5 minutes past this. So, are we reading blood alcohol concentration here? Hopefully not. But this is illustrating a limitation of the model where they use breath to measure blood alcohol concentration. All right, 0.11, yes. We can go around one more time and try it. Is 0.11 a good number? So, what we are talking about are or is models of impairment. .03, so you're half what you were before. So that's pretty quick decline. We're still less than 10 minutes out. You can try one more, see if you can do a little better this time. So the question is, what behaviors are relevant to good driving? Right? So you can text things in and maybe a little more entertaining than have me tell you. But the question is, what we're really concerned about is people's impaired ability to drive. So what would be the best models to assess that? 0.02, so you, so it's gone down again. So give it another shot. So what behaviors, etc. Yeah, I was actually thinking more here of not reaction time. Yeah, well, we all want to avoid that one. Coordination, reaction time, judgment, right? Like, okay, I can beat this train across the tracks, 0.05. So you're all going down about 50% in between the two readings. So it's decaying pretty fast. Nonetheless, be aware. Okay, so in terms of the actual what properties, maybe I should have worded it a little differently. What abilities are Let's try this again and put a few vowels in. What abilities are relevant to driving? So it'll be reaction time, coordination, judgment, vision, etc. Right? We know, since I suspect all of us in here have driven, even if we don't have a driver's license, we know what's relevant to driving, right? And our best model, well, I don't want to say best, but if we were really trying to assess, is your ability to drive impaired, our model, the way we test you would reflect that. It doesn't. So the ideal model of impairment would assess these and we want to say all else equal because other factors play in. So another one, we'll see how up to date you are on this. Hopefully you don't have any reason to be. Under Texas law, you are legally impaired when? Okay, so some of you got down, and 0.08 refers to what? Blood alcohol concentration. Oh yeah, I forgot to bring up that 21 issue last time too. Okay, anyone know another, so 0.08 is correct. Anyone know the other part of the code? No, I mean, not, you're partway there, but it's not that easy. It's much more formalized than that. Now, there's this whole separate issue of if you're under 21, and then I don't want to say anything derogatory, but being under 21, there's a totally different set of standards. And I don't know how much of that's been challenged so in court, but so, come on back. Maybe I pushed the wrong button there. In Texas, the law is you are legally impaired when it's written as this: not having normal use of physical, that's a C in there, or mental faculties and it's probably or too, have a blood alcohol concentration of 0.08% or higher. And what are the ways of getting a blood alcohol concentration? Where can we actually get that from? Blood, breath, one other. Yep, urine. I don't know that urine's been used anytime in the recent past. But
Wait, so are there illegal ways of getting a PAC?
well, if they use a different method, it won't count in court. So it's not that it's illegal, it just couldn't be used against you in court. Yep.
I think they only use urine samples when a blood sample would be contaminated. Like there's certain ways that the blood sample can be done, and then they go to urine. It's considered less accurate.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. So,
Certain drug use can like affect that, as well as certain like blood diseases.
oh, I didn't know that. Okay, I've got a lawyer friend. I'll ask for details about that. So he said that there are certain things known to alter the blood-based blood.
The blood, there's certain things that conflict that preventing good tests in the blood. Certain conditions.
Okay, so there's certain things that if they're in your blood, then they cannot get a legitimate or accurate estimate of the blood alcohol concentration, so they can go to urine, or I assume breath. But how would they know that at the time?
Well, I mean, I assume they would know that. I would assume that they know what things would prevent good tests, and they ask them questions or.
Okay, you'd probably have to notify them, because by the time they actually got the test results back, it would be too late. Now, breath they could know immediately. So anyway, I didn't know that, and I'm glad to know that. Okay, so, and the 0.08 over the years, in terms of we talk about progress in models, it started out at 0.15 in many states. This is a long time ago, and it came down to 0.12 for a while in a lot of states. It's 0.1 in some states. Maybe I don't know if any of them are now, but there's been a decline over the years, and I think 0.08 is now considered the standard across most states. And it doesn't always apply in the sense that they, I remember when I was, went to DC about 3 times a year for several years, and I was reading the newspaper, but I remember reading a case in there where they were prosecuting a woman who blew at 0.01%, even though the statute was 0.08. Yes?
If you get in an accident, but you're not legally drunk or impaired, are the penalties less severe?
I don't know. That's a legal question, and so I think it can vary case by case. He asked if the penalties were less severe if you had some blood alcohol concentration, but it was less than 0.08. So I think when an accident happens, all bets are off as to what they can do. Okay, dealt with that. So these are the, right, we're talking about models of impairment here, legal models. And so we've been dealing with 0.2. How do we assess the first of these? You had a hint in that spoof I showed you. Sobriety test, okay? What is involved? That's correct. Now, do things like citing the alphabet backwards have any legal standing? What does in the field sobriety test? Walking a straight line. Touching your nose. No. Holding a foot in the air. I'll describe these a little bit more, and then there's one other. Okay, that is called the horizontal gaze nystagmus. So what the lingo now is standardized field sobriety test. Standardized means it's given the same way, it's the same set of tests given to everyone. And it's, I think, pretty much across the country. So standardized field sobriety test, and the acronym is SFST. And it's 3 tests. The walk and turn test, one leg stand, and horizontal gaze, nystagmus. What would you say A and B are measuring in terms of your abilities? Balance, coordination. We don't know what this measures, right? Something to do with your brain, but, and what, by the way, what is the actual behavior they're looking at? So they hold a pencil in front of you're supposed to hold your head still, they hold a pencil in front of your face, and then you're supposed to track the pencil with your eye without moving. What are they looking for?
They're looking to see if your eye bounces.
Vibrates a little bit. In particular, and will it in all people? It will. Okay? It's a normal behavior. What they're looking for is the angle at which that behavior starts. So 45 degrees is considered normal, sober, and less than that is considered evidence of impairment. So that's what they're looking at as the angle. Now, this is all being done by hand, right? It's not, even though it's standardized, there's no device out there to actually measure the angle at which it's happening. So that's kind of a judgment call. So we're getting there. If these test balance and coordination, the question comes up, how about mental faculties? Now, they can ask you to do things like recite the alphabet backwards, etc. Those have no legal standing. It can go in the notes as supporting evidence, but they don't have legal standing the way that these three tests do. So how are they going to get at mental faculties with a standardized field sobriety test?
Ask you general knowledge questions.
General knowledge questions, that wouldn't work very well, right? Because you wouldn't know what your background is. And that, again, wouldn't be standardized. So with these three tests, with the one leg stand, the horizontal gaze and nystagmus doesn't work, but with a walk and turn and one leg stand, how are they going to get at mental faculties?
Your ability to follow their instructions.
And why would your ability to follow their instructions be an issue?
Because I think, don't they tell you to take a certain number of steps on the walk and turn? And to hold your leg up for a certain number of seconds that you count in your head?
So that's not, so you're right in general that the instructions are anything but trivial. How many steps they think, so how many steps do you think are involved in the one walk and turn? 10. That's what they want you to think. It's 9. And they will say 9 steps. They will not demonstrate 9, they will demonstrate 2. The instructions are stereotyped. Officers have got to be certified in administering the test, and they go through this. And not only that, and they'll say on the 9th step, so you're supposed to count, when you get to 9, however it works out, you're supposed to plant your foot, and then you take a bunch of baby steps like this to turn around, etc. The instructions are very confusing. The other thing that works very well when people are, trips up people when they're intoxicated, is they will say, I'm going to demonstrate these instructions. Do you understand? They will say, do not start until I tell you. And so when someone's out there, I suppose even sober, you're watching this officer and you watch them take a step, right? What's your natural inclination? It's like they take a step, you take a step. No. Okay? They say, do not start until I tell you, do you understand these instructions? You say yes. And so not starting until they say you may proceed, that's one indication of your ability to follow instructions. So they have a check sheet for how you performed, and there are boxes for whether you obeyed the instructions. So that's how they're getting at that. Now, of course, the other side of this is, it's like any test, right? What do you want to do when you want to pass a test? You study, you practice, right? So anyone that would have practiced this a few times would be able to follow the directions pretty well. So So what do you think would be the ideal model of driving performance? Or maybe we say the most accurate model of driving performance. Forget about, I guess, practical issues. What do we really care about? What? Stay well. That's one example. We care about your ability to drive, right? Yep.
Well, you said ideal, so I guess it would be hypothetical, but like you could literally take them to a driving simulator.
Absolutely. Yep. And so I don't actually think that's out of the question, right? When I was in your shoes, I don't want to count that many years ago, but when I was there, right, the idea of breathalyzers didn't exist. That's a technology that came in, it's now practical. I don't see why in another 40 years the idea of simulators out there won't be practical as well. What we really care about is your ability to drive. And it, you know, I mean, realistically, if you're shit-faced, you're probably not going to be able to drive well. But that's really what counts. That's what if we could, that's what we should be assessing. So ideally, it would be a road test out there, except for the practicality that, you know, if you were that much under the influence and you ran into a telephone pole during this road test we were using to assess whether you could drive or not, that wouldn't be a good thing, right? So, so there are all these balances, but that's what we care about. And these are kind of surrogates. These are substitutes for what we really care about because they are more practical, or in some cases, easier to administer, I guess makes them more practical. So road test or simulated road test would be the ideal model, all else equal. And then we'd catch things where if you shouldn't be driving for other reasons, like you've been awake for 36 hours, but it is not yet convenient to do this. And it's, as I say, it's something that you might see happen in your lifetime. So I want to do a couple of different tables here to kind of classify what we've done. Model, blood alcohol concentration, standardized field sobriety test, road test, and then I'm going to we'll make another table down below that has these in them where we fill them out in more detail. So, in terms of accuracy, remember we care about your ability to drive. Would we say blood alcohol concentration is an accurate model of that? Hopefully not. How about the standardized field sobriety test, at least relative to blood alcohol concentration? Are we getting at the behaviors we care about? So it's certainly more accurate, and this would be the most accurate. Convenience, well, we have to say both of these are pretty convenient. A road test is not convenient, lots of reasons against it. And then uniformity, I think that one's kind of a tough call. This one is uniform in the sense the blood alcohol concentration, and that we can administer it. We could say, here's a threshold. The threshold applies to everyone, so you're above it or you're below it. As we will see, I guess next time, there's some ways around that. So now I want to fill out the table again for these things, but go into a little more detail. The model, how useful and what are the limitations? Blood alcohol concentration of 0.08% using blood. And we're going to go down here and say blood alcohol concentration of 0.08 using breath. And the last one we'll do is standardized field sobriety test. Hopefully I left enough room. So blood alcohol concentration using blood is objective. It's easy to get an accurate reading. Those are its uses. What are its limitations? So interference with other drugs, you mean, or?
Maybe they have like a wrong reading or something.
So there's possible. Let's see, test sensitivity. To other drugs. I'll put a question mark there. Actually, once they get the blood, they can look for other things. But in terms of assessing your ability to drive, what are some obvious limitations of it? So let's say this. This is along the lines. BAC not measured at time of arrest, meaning when you're stopped driving. What's a big one? When you think about 0.08% being applied, does that apply to me? And you? Who said no? I didn't say should it apply to me. It does apply to me, right? And so let me tell you, if I'm out there and I'm at 0.06, you won't be a hell out of my way, because the impact on me is much different than it is on you. We're applying one standard, one blood alcohol concentration to everyone, and I don't want to encourage anyone, but some people are going to be a lot better off at 0.08 than others, right? And so that's, ideally, if we had our druthers, we wouldn't have a system like that, right? We care about impairment. We care about who's impaired. So we're setting a standard where some people may be really impaired and others not impaired at all. So another limitation, which I guess one, well, let's put it this way, 0.08%, not same level of impairment in everyone. So that is a limitation of the model. We're using it for the purposes of identifying impaired versus unimpaired drivers. And of course, I suppose you could say, well, it's not a threshold thing anyway, right? There's a degree of impairment as it goes up. So that makes it even more complicated. Using breath, well, the usefulness of it is same as above. In terms of the limitations of blood alcohol concentration using breath, we have same as above, but the one we illustrated here with this breathalyzer today, right, this thing, we also showed that breath concentration may not match blood concentration. Do we know how they get around this problem? I mean, so how do they minimize this problem, I guess is the best way. Yep.
If you could find the typical difference between your breath and your blood, it's kind of account for that.
But so all they have to do is take your breath. They don't have to do both.
Like, I guess like if there's a conviction associated later on, they can take a blood and it's convenient.
But if they didn't take a blood sample at the time, it's just your breath. So there are some things they can do when they're taking breath to reduce this problem.
Don't they take it multiple times, like after?
They will take it 2 times. So I think the way it works is they can do a preliminary one out on the road, and then they'll take you downtown to a machine that's calibrated, and they'll have you do 2, but it'll be just minutes apart, so it won't be very far apart. And frankly, they don't care. If they get if they get you over 0.08, they aren't going to try and find out if you're less. There are 2 things that they're supposed to do, one of which probably isn't relevant. One is they're supposed to ask if you've had anything alcoholic in your mouth in the previous 20 or 30 minutes. They're supposed to do that, but if you're stopped on the road, I think most experiences last long enough that they'd know that wasn't the case, because they might be doing the field sobriety test for you. But if there's a possibility that you were somewhere else 20 minutes earlier, they're supposed to ask that. The other is, when you blow, you're supposed to blow for a long time. They're trying to get air that's from deep down in your lungs, what they call alveolar air. And that is supposed to be a much better match of your blood alcohol concentration than what's in your mouth. So those are 2 things they do to minimize it. So it's not clear that this in practice is much of a limitation. So standardized field sobriety test. We would say the performance is relevant to driving. Oh, what is wrong with me today? It's easy to administer. Right? You don't need any special equipment. Even if there's not a line on the road, they'll say, imagine a straight line, and follow it. There are problems. Uniformity is one of them, and that is scoring is subjective. So there's a box to check whether you swayed when you were walking or swayed when you're standing there holding one foot up, whether you followed a line, whether your heel touched the toe of the etc. Okay, some of that's subjective, and and it's kind of up to the officer's discretion. Another one is performance is affected by factors other than your ability to drive. So if they're supposed to administer this on a flat surface, but the road, if it's asphalt and that, might be lumpy. Yeah?
I think also, I do a lot of yoga, like, a lot of yoga, I do yoga occasionally, and I can't stand on one leg, like, I just don't have that coordination.
Yep.
And so, like, I could just demonstrate in court, I could bring my yoga instructor and be like, hey, like, this girl sees that I can't do this every week. Like, couldn't I get the test done now?
I don't think, they're not looking for ways to let you off. But you've brought up the last one. The last limitation, there is no baseline data, there are no baseline data for each person. In fact, it's well known that when people get to be my age, their coordination has gone to hell, and they're really not even supposed to give the test to someone my age, right? And someone that works for a living walking, high beams on a construction site is going to have much better balance than other people. So there's no baseline data. That is a limitation of this. But again, we're applying the same standards across the board.